Hej allesammen. Det gått å se dere. For dere som ikke har møtt meg ennå, jeg heter Hagar Spiro, og jeg ambassadens nye ambassaderåd. Jeg kom hit med mannen min og mine 2 døtre for 3 måneder siden. Det godt å være her, selv om det iskaldt og kun november. Om det greit, tar jeg resten på engelsk. So I would like to begin by reading out loud a few sentences. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. You were all made in the image of God. The one who saves one soul is considered as if he saved the whole world. One for all and all for one. You shall love the stranger. You shall remember that you were a slave in Egypt. These sentences are all taken from the Jewish tradition and texts. They teach us to see the world globally with a sense of responsibility. The belief in Tikkun Olam, which means repairing the world, stretches beyond any racial or religious boundaries. It is an honor and a privilege for me to be here with such good friends of Israel. Your friendship and your support is very much appreciated and not taken for granted. I would like to present today Israel from a few different perspectives, which will enable to have a comprehensive understanding of this piece of land, its society, its achievement, and its challenges. Allow me to go back to the first notion I have mentioned in my presentation, Tikkun Olam. The most modern and probably broadly understood notion of Tikkun Olam is that of repairing the world through human actions. Increasing the well-being of humankind is one of the key elements of repairing the world. Tikkun Olam relates to practical methods and applies to working in all communities. Jews are members of a greater society, and as such, their actions are not limited to their own communities. Social welfare and volunteer work, as well as the donation of monetary and physical resources, are ways in which people can be involved in Tikkun Olam. After the establishment of the State of Israel, the phrase Tikkun Olam was first used to refer to social action during the 50s, mainly in Israel, because Israel was a young country in itself without the resources to help beyond its boundaries. Israel's official international development program, Cooperation, was launched in late 57 after Golda Meir, the foreign minister, came back from a visit to Africa, with the aim of sharing with the rest of the developing world the know-how and technologies which provided the basis for Israel's own rapid development. Mashav, the name of the program, was established as a division of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. What started as a modest program when Israel itself was still a developing country has blossomed into an extensive program of cooperation throughout the developing world. Mashav aims to empower those living in poverty in a holistic and innovative way, to support communities in their struggle to achieve sustainable development, placing people at the heart of the initiative. Besides humanitarian help and agricultural and educational programs, Mashav has sought to strengthen peace in the Middle East by ways of cooperation and development. To date, thousands of professionals from the Arab world have benefited from Mashav training programs, acquiring hands-on expertise in diverse fields. For some reason, many are not actually aware of those things here in Norway, and unfortunately the automatic connotation that comes to mind when the word Israel is being mentioned is conflict and occupation. With this notion in mind, let's move on and dedicate a few words to a concept Israel has managed to acquire, the startup nation. In the last few decades, Israel has become one of the most important technological powers. Amazingly, with a population of only 9 million inhabitants, Israel is the home of more than 5,000 tech companies in every sector possible, from pharma and software through agriculture, water, transportation, and many more. Israel is a country that emerged from the desert without any natural resources, facing a hostile environment, and yet it became a global leader in innovation and is the home to pioneering startups on various sectors like cyber, medtech, energy, agrotech, aerospace, and more. Converse gave the world its first voicemail system. Mirabilis introduced the ICQ. Given Imaging astonished the world with PillCam, a micro video camera that the patient swallows, which goes down the digestive system. Drip irrigation, Waze navigation system, Mobileye, which protects us from having a car accident, Wix, that provides a simple interface so that anyone can manage his own website, MoveIt, which is a public transportation app that helps users navigate around, Orcam, which has developed an artificial vision to those who are visually impaired, Checkpoint is keeping our data secured, and I could continue on and on and on and on. In almost every gadget and car, you will find an Israeli technology. Israel is hosting multinational, like Google, Microsoft, Motorola, and Facebook, companies which chose to establish their offices and R&D centers in Israel. I am sure that my late grandparents, who came from Poland and survived Auschwitz, could not imagine when they left to Israel after the Holocaust that all these amazing things will be achieved. This is Israel for me. Unfortunately, it is not. It is an entirely different country for the average Norwegian citizen. I hope that a different approach will become more prominent, one that sees Israel as a small, flourishing country despite the challenging geostrategical circumstances. Entrepreneurial spirit is rooted in the history of overcoming obstacles. Failing is not something Israelis try to hide. They will try over and over until achieving progress and breakthrough. But Israeli society is very diverse. So,
could you bring the microphone?
Yeah, of course. As much as I can.
Speak a bit up.
Israeli society is very diverse, so let's dedicate a few minutes to the social composition of Israel. When I was working on my PhD, my research examined the impact of urban morphology on the social residential distribution in Tel Aviv Jaffa. I was concentrating on the perception of the residential space from the perspective of various social groups. The immigrants who came from Russia, former Soviet Unions to Israel, the Arab Israelis, and the veteran Israelis. Israel is a destination for migrant workers, refugees, and Jews who choose to relocate and therefore extremely heterogenic demographically. For this reason, I attribute to the ethnic cultural dimension a central and dominant role within the fabric and structure of the Israeli society. Someone in Israel can have multiple identities, and it makes the human encounters, a fascinating thing. The human experience in my research is no less important than the physical form of the city, because we have constant interactions, both with ourselves as well as with others and the environment we are living in. My subjective interest in the relationships between social groups that share the same geographic space prompted me to examine the issue of intergroup relations, in the hope that understanding the dynamics between the various groups would enable, in due course, to understand better the phenomena of segregation, the types of interaction between groups, the character and place of occurrence. Understanding the dynamics of Jewish-Arab relations in light of the ongoing rivalry within the Israeli-Arab conflict is particularly important in light of the fact that such rivalries have constituted a large part of all armed conflict over the past 200 years. All of this has been said to bring to light the complexity of intergroup relations within Israel, which do not live in a political vacuum, but are influenced by what is happening around them. Despite the tensions and frictions, one must bear in mind that at the end of the day, there is coexistence, there is tolerance, there is respect in Israel. And the state of Israel is investing more and more in closing the gaps between different social groups and between center and periphery. Integrating everyone into acquiring education and taking part in the employment market is highly prioritized. More than 2 million Israelis identify themselves as not Jewish, representing 25% of the population. The Arab Sunni Muslims constitute the largest minority, some 1.5 million, including approximately 300,000 Bedouins. The Christian communities number about 160,000. Additionally, we have the Druze faith with over 130,000 followers, the Baha'i faith whose global center is in Haifa. Haifa, Israel's northern metropolis, annually hosts the Holiday of Holidays Festival, which honors Hanukkah, Christmas, and Ramadan, and celebrates the good neighborly relation enjoyed by the city's diverse population. Haifa has been a multicultural city for centuries, with the Jews, Muslims, Christians, and Baha'i leading a respectful and inclusive way of life. An interesting data relates to the increasing participation of Israeli Arabs within many sectors in Israel, which is the result of a plan approved in 2015. Currently, 15% of the physicians in Israel, for example, are Arabs. And over the past 7 years, we have seen an 80% rise in Arab students. 10% of the high-tech employees are Arabs, of which quarter are women, and I can go on and on. And again, instead of focusing on facts and the integration that is taking place, bringing to light this data as well, a very narrow prism is being taken here in Norway. You know, before I joined the foreign ministry, besides completing the PhD I was talking about, I was also a registered nurse. I was working side by side with devoted and professional nurses and doctors coming from different religions and took care of everyone equally and without any favoritism. And all Israeli sentences enjoy the full civil, legal, and political rights guaranteed by a democratic society. So instead of taking a very narrow picture of Israel and focusing on the conflict, I challenge all of us to focus on solutions, not by boycotting, not by isolating and removing any options for a dialogue, but by promoting peace and security for everyone. Unfortunately, we have now heard an initiative to boycott Israel by the municipality of Oslo. Not only that this decision will not bring peace and understanding, but on the contrary, more hatred and more tensions, and it even can cause harm to thousands of Palestinians living in the territories. The fact that boycotting Israel is one of the first decisions that the council in Oslo would wish to take is a strange thing, in my opinion. Unfortunately, over the past years, much effort has been made to delegitimize Israel and its right to exist. Social media is a platform in which we see that level of incitement reaching new highs. In order to achieve peace, we need the other side to accept us for what we are and recognize our right to exist in the Middle East. If we analyze the situation from this perspective, then the obvious conclusion comes to mind. This is the main obstacle for peace. In 1947, when the UN approved the partition plan and voted for two-state solution, 2 states side by side, the Jewish leadership said yes and embraced the resolution. It was not the best option, but after 2,000 years of being a persecuted minority, they were not going to reject the chance of making a safe haven. The Arabs said no and launched a war. Now, don't get me wrong, criticizing Israel is 100% legitimate, but denying its right to exist and boycotting it, demonizing it, this is not acceptable. Some Israelis will say it is all because of anti-Semitism, and I don't think so. Norway has an action plan against anti-Semitism, and the level of it in comparison to other European countries is quite low, and let's hope it stays that way and even improve. So what is it about Israel that draws so much attention here? Some will say it's the Oslo peace process. Maybe. Many agents are influencing public opinion here in Norway. It's not only the government, but many other players as well. Civil society and the media are quite influential. It's also part of the answer. The right of the Jews for self-determination is sometimes perceived as an idea of compassion. Jews deserve a state because they were the victims of the Holocaust, which Europeans feel responsible for. The result of portraying Israel as merely the outcome of the Holocaust is that the Jews are robbed of their history and their historical connection from the land of Israel. What works for Oslo does not necessarily work for Jerusalem or any other country. And the fact that the same ideas and values are being sometimes interpreted differently is entirely okay. And if Israel is adopting a strategy that might be perceived as wrong in the Norwegian eyes, that does not mean it is less moral. Therefore, we need to develop the ability to distinguish between genuine and constructive criticism and the discourse aimed at undermining the mere legitimacy of Israel's right to exist. A poll taken in Norway in 2017 showed that 38% of Norwegians actually believe Israel treats the Palestinians like the Nazis treated Jews, and Jewish high school students were harassed verbally and physically, and Jew is a common insult. These manifestations are worrisome and stress the concern that being an anti-Israeli can quite simply turn into Jew hatred. Despite growing calls for boycotts, both by NGOs and municipalities, we should keep working on our bilateral relations and make sure to straighten trade, academia, culture, and friendship. Allow me to also mention again that since its establishment, a core value of Israeli democracy has been that all citizens are equal, irrespective of gender, religion, or race. Israel's civil society sector is one of the largest in the world in terms of the contribution it makes to the country's gross domestic product. There are around 50,000 registered not-for-profit organizations covering a broad range of issues. Civil society organizations constitute a crucial vocal component in the public debate, actively contributing to the decision-making process. People in Israel can express themselves freely. Expression is the basic right to express ourselves, our thoughts, ideas, beliefs in any way we see fit, in film, show, dance, dress in a certain way, draw a painting, or write an article to the newspaper. Why I'm telling you that? Because this is another point which I would like to refer to, democratic values. This is the foundation of the State of Israel. Today we are coping with second elections, as we've heard before, all in the names of keeping democracy alive and kicking. Last month we have celebrated the Jewish New Year. This month marks the beginning of the Jewish people's emergence as a free nation and is a kind of a declaration of independence for the Jewish people. For me, this New Year is also the beginning of my work at the embassy. My role is first and foremost to represent Israel, but also to show that there are common values for humanity in general and common values for Norway and Israel in particular of dignity, equality, human rights, and democracy. And I hope that during my time here, we'll be able to further and straighten the relations between our countries and keep working together. And I will wrap up this lecture with a really tiny and short quote of Shimon Peres, who once said, "No room for small dreams." So let's think big together, and thank you very much.
Do you have time for a few questions? Er det noen spørsmål?
I just wanted to know, are you, from the embassy side, working towards the municipality of Oslo to stop the boycott notion, and if, how?
We haven't decided yet. It's quite a new thing. We will try to speak with as many persons as possible working in the municipality, although we don't have much friends there, unfortunately. So it will be a great challenge, but definitely we will try to do something. I can't tell you exactly what is the strategy yet. We are composing it these days, but yes, we will do something. Yeah. And if you have any ideas, you are more than welcome to come and share them with me. You know the Norwegian society better than I do, so. Tusen takk for hyggelige invitasjonen. Ja.